I
Yeah.
love that
You
tip.
can't
That's
you
gold.
can't sell with your wallet. You sell
Yep.
with their wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
So I feel like I've got a question for you as a salesperson, and I
Yeah,
feel like you're kind of in a unique position to answer it.
sure.
I've born and raised in Iowa, so I've always been a Midwest kid, small town Iowa, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I've only sold in the Midwest, and you've sold in, the Midwest and in New York. So what are some like the really big differences or how you approach things when it comes to
I'm
how you're selling?
laughing because but this will be the first podcast I'm on where this is Brian's story hour. That's what this is.
Yes.
Uh there's a real thing called Midwest Nice,
Yeah.
okay? And I had this so he was a security guy, so he did safes and he did not only safe sales, but he did like home security. He had like this whole
Mm.
two branch arm. So he had like this hardware component as well as like software. And anyway, he owned a pretty big company because he was doing a lot of business everywhere. I
Hmm.
remember cold calling him, and I had wrote my cold calling script at Yellow Pages. I had like my own thing, and I was loud as heck on the phone, right? And it drove the veterans nuts because I had my headset on, and I would keep it open, right? So you have a headset on the old phones on your desk, and you could
Yep.
open the phone line and then just keep dialing, and then hit hang up, and then dial again, hang up, dial
Yeah.
again.
Yep.
I had a system, right? Like get someone on the phone and be like, "Hey, thanks for calling. My name's Brian. I'm introducing myself to the market." I had this thing down, right? And I had so much energy behind it. So I hang up after booking an appointment. The veterans would be like, "Brian, can you shut up?" Like I was so loud. Anyway, I would book this appointment with, I forget his name now. I'll call him Mike. I don't care. But booked this appointment with Mike, security guy, Oconomowoc, Wisconsin. So a little town in the middle of nowhere. So come meet me up in Oconomowoc. I'm going to be up there tomorrow. We'll meet at Starbucks. We can sit down. We can talk through your marketing plan. I'm like, let's go. So I always operated too on this four time. I had all sorts of rules, right? But like rules became process, process became success.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
my rule was I had four times I took meetings throughout the day. Okay, I'd get in every day at 6 a.m. I was there 2 hours before everyone. I did all of my prep work, all of my documentation work for the day, and all the research I needed for the day for the 2 hours before I got there. At 8 a.m., I was either in the car or I was dialing. That was it. Like that's how I operated. And I had my 9/11 1 and 3. Those were the times I'd take calls. So it
Yeah.
was great too because when I'm cold calling, they're like, "Hey, yeah, sure, I'll take the meeting. When do you want to meet?" And I said, "Well, you a morning person, or afternoon person?" They'd be like, "Well, this guy. I'm in the afternoon." I'm like, "I could do one, or I can do three." And I always had my times, right? But I always sounded busy because I knew my four times. And if somebody booked it, great. If that person canceled, I had a call list of people that wanted to meet with me that I called because I had an opening at 3. Do you want to meet? And
Yeah.
so I always had myself booked. So it was one of the keys to success. Anyway, so I meet this guy up in Wilconamallock at Starbucks, and we sat down for 2 hours. And we're going through a robust plan. And I'm like, this is great. This is going to be a great deal. My manager calls me. He's like, where are you? I'm like, the deal's happening. I've moved my 3 o'clock to tomorrow. Like, this is going to go down. It's going to be like a great deal. He's like, okay. So we get to the end of the meeting. I'm like, all right, man. So you ready to move forward? And he says to me, he goes, move forward. No, 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 no. I'm not ready to. We're not going to do business right now. Maybe in a year.
What?
Well, you just spent 2 hours with me. What are you talking about? And that, my friends, is Midwest nice. They will sit with you for hours and have no intention to do any sort of business with you, but they're the nicest people in the world, right? And I did that. I wound up taking a second meeting with him, and the egg was still on my face. So I that was one of the lessons. When I got to New York, to start selling in Yellow Pages and then eventually in the software, you start realizing the pace.
Yeah.
You could get someone that you never spoke to before to the finish in the same day.
Yeah.
Like you get in there, they have no time to waste. You're in their business. You're in the middle of their day. They don't want to talk to you. You want to talk to them, but they don't want to talk to you. It's come in. Here's what I have going on. I have to get back up to fixing the cars. Can you help me or not? And like, it's show value or die, right? Like
Yeah. Yep.
that's it. And so the pacing's just so much different. I wound up working in Canton, Ohio for a little while, supporting that team that was there. And I remember being in an attorney's office and was telling her about, Google advertising and getting her program. She goes, internet advertising, everyone here drives tractors. And I walked over to the window and I lifted the shades and went, I see cars out there. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. But, then you learn about trends and how trends start on the coasts and they bleed into the center of the country. And so
Yep.
when you have those learnings like on the field and you learn how true mom and pop shop business owners operate, it does translate very, very like much to a true creating value story.
Yes.
Very different than when we're talking about enterprise businesses and we're talking about, selling to the Fortune 500, the Fortune 1000, the Cloud 1000, the SaaS 1000, whatever you want to be selling into. When you're selling big companies, you still have to be able to drive value, but now you have multiple stakeholders. And so it becomes a different
And decision makers.
It's a different beast, right? But all of the lessons of the early days of that cutting teeth in some place where you're learning about nuance between region and everything, all those regional nuances still bleed into the enterprise sale. And so now when your stakeholders are in France and the Midwest and California and Texas, and you're trying to negotiate between different parties, you also have to negotiate between how they also think and process and are hearing the information that you're putting in front of them. It's kind of a unique